I was listening to quite a few Palestinians asking the question, can they hear us, as they're expressing their pain, their suffering, trauma that they are facing overseas. And something to note is if they cannot hear God, commands of God, how are they going to hear you? That's just one important note that I'd like to put out there. They can't hear God, commands of God. How are they going to hear you? The other question note I'd like to put forward, not actually a question, is people who are false to you, they're also false to themselves because you give what you own. When you're false to others, you're false to yourself. And when you are false to yourself, you don't even hear what you genuinely and truthfully believe because you camouflage it with a lot of sugarcoating, human rights, international laws, in the case of what's going on in Palestine, God's promise. You keep sugarcoating it that you're not really hearing if you remove all that sugarcoating, what's right there front and center. Hospitals are a target, civilians are a target, babies are a target, children are a target. The complete violations of every social, human, international faith law. When you are facing falsehood, you're not really aiming to get them to hear you as much as you're getting them to hear themselves. Because again, their weapons are camouflaged with a lot of things that sound good. And they genuinely believe, they genuinely think, not only say believe, that this is what they really believe. Constantly promoting freedom, and all of these nice cities, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. But in reality, they practice censorship and they practice policies that oppress and persecute others. So it's essential if you look at this particular verse in chapter 40, verse 28, is when you're fighting falsehood, you want the individual, you want to bring front and center to the individual. This is your aha moment. This is what you accept. And you listen to them. And usually if you listen to them and let them do the talking and just let them kind of bring it out, let them reveal themselves, you can then just push it enough as seeking a confirmation or a clarification or verification, as he says, will you slay a man? Because he says, my Lord is Allah. This is a very beautiful question. It's a clarifying question. It's a confirmation question. It's not accusatory. You could say, will you slay a man? Because he says, my Lord is Allah. Because at that time, Pharaoh was plotting and planned to kill him, to kill Moses upon him peace. And of course, they come up with all these nice security reasons of why they need to kill. So the man responds, this is the secret witness in the house of Pharaoh, will you kill a man because he says, my Lord is Allah? Notice he doesn't play in Cade. Cade is kind of the sinful, cunning games to try to prove somebody that doesn't agree with you is lying. I don't see anywhere in the Quran where any moral, upright, righteous person engaged in these behaviors. I didn't see it anywhere. Usually when people engage in Cade, it's because they cannot accept their wrong. And the way they come to terms with their wrong is they try to play with all these sinful, cunning games to prove somebody is wrong, even though that person will have invited them openly and transparently to bring their evidence for open investigation, and they did not. In this case, Moses, upon him peace, invited the Pharaoh, remember the day of the festival, to bring your evidence. He came with clear signs. It was very clear signs, put it right there open. There was no cade. Moses didn't play cade. He didn't tell a person, you tell him this, you put this here, you make this comment, you say this, you wink this way, you do that. You know, he didn't do these, games. When people do that, it shows they're like low-born and low-dwelling. Like they're just not raised right. Because if you're raised right, then you respond with the morals of this verse. You come openly, transparently, you present your case, you present your evidence. This is what the Palestinians have done. They came with clear signs before the International Criminal Court of Justice. They came with clear signs, even here, before the US court, to try to hold some US leaders who were complicit in the genocide against Palestinians. They came with clear signs, like when I used to write in Star Tribune or the Pioneer Press or others, it was open, it was transparent. It wasn't like behind the scenes, plotting, planning, and then boom. It was this is the evidence, this is the situation. It was all open for everybody to read and to respond. You come with clear signs. These are the morals of Islam. And you speak about adab, you speak about civil rights, and you speak about, what is the word here I'm looking for? Haya, the moral dignity, having morality. This is what it is. It's right here. You continue with the verse. He says, if he be a liar, on him is the sin of his lie. If Moses is a liar, he will carry that sin of his lie. If he's telling the truth, then will fall on you something of the calamity of which he warns you. Truly Allah guides not one who transgresses and lies. We know how Moses approached the Pharaoh. He did not transgress, not mentally, not emotionally, not spiritually, not socially, not physically. He came openly, with dignity, with morality, and presented his sign as well as his argument. And truth was on his side. Now, when people start playing behind the scenes and playing all these games, usually that is sufficient evidence that they're hiding the truth, or they're manufacturing it, or they're playing some games. But at the end of the day, they don't have the morality and the dignity that Moses came forth and presented. And this is what I liked about the ICJ. You came forth, you presented it. Now, did that change the situation for the people during time of Moses? It did not, but still, when you're following the commands of God, you can't be doing cade, transgressing and lying, and then expecting God to support you. You have to follow the way the story unfolds. You have to come openly. And so I'm very appreciative to South Africa, appreciative to the Houthis in Yemen. I'm appreciative to all those who stood up, again, following, the commands of God, following international law, following, human rights laws. We're not here being the best representative and speaking, but they are doing the best that they can in their actions. And we're doing it openly. And We're doing it transparently. Now, obviously, people are going to respond by saying that we are the oppressors. We are the ones who are the terrorists. We are the ones, XYZ, put in the negative label to it. If we are those negatives that they have described, then we will carry that sin, and the punishment of God will fall upon us. But if we are telling the truth, and what the individuals who are engaging in oppression are doing are the ones who are oppressors, criminals, transgressors, then as the story reads in the Quran, a different type of narration maybe, or narrative in the Bible, or elsewhere that we sometimes share when we're ever like sharing stories, that, what is the phrase that I said, that the arc, the arc of justice, eventually will manifest. So the calamity, another way of saying it, which God warns, will eventually fall upon the Pharaoh and his supporters. We all know how the story begins, and we all know how the story ends. We need to take heed, because the warning in the Quran is you will be questioned, did a warner come to you? Did a warner come to you? So when we speak, everyone speaks like for different reasons. Some speak because they want to change your mind. But the Quran also has other verses in the Quran which says that if God knows any good in them, he will make them hear. That means you really cannot make people whose hearts are sealed hear you. What you need to do is put the warning out there and keep warning them, keep warning them, keep warning them. Now, the sadism might kick in, as we have seen, like they'll laugh, they'll show, oh yeah, well, hear me blowing up, this building, where is God? And hear me blowing up this building, try and stop me, as Netanyahu said, and hear me blowing up this, try and stop us. So they're going to respond with what we have witnessed, the sadism. But we still continue with, warning, 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 until the appointed time when they will be pushed into hellfire. And someone will come and say, did a warner come to you? And you can hear sort of their conscience is recognizing that voice, because they're asking, we warned them when they're bombing. We warned them. We warned them. We warned them. This is kind of like a little conscientious voice telling them, you are being warned. You are being warned to stop the oppression, stop the persecution, because you are going to end up in hellfire if you don't. So while they're saying, we warned, which they're not really warning, telling somebody like, telling like 2.2 or 2.5 million people to evacuate Gaza, you can't just, packing my bags to go somewhere. It takes a really, really long time. How do you get up and just go? And then be displaced, and then get up again, and then be displaced, and then get up again, and then be displaced. That's just not reasonable. And it's not a warning. It's more persecution dressed up as a warning. Psychological persecution, social persecution. It's kind of like that. I mentioned the quote by one of the Israeli leaders. All they could do is scurry around like cockroaches. So it's trying to like get them into that, like feeling that tight constraint. They have nowhere to go, and you just keep like getting them in in a furry back and forth, not being able, scurry kind of back and forth, but not having any psychological sense of stability, safety, a place to stay, so that they can not just kill them physically, but psychologically, mentally, emotionally. It's meant to be like just a complete, total overpowering of a group of human beings, complete, total overpowering, like to try to shatter them. Because remember, as I said before, God doesn't shatter you. Oppressors shatter you. They try to shatter you mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually, physically. You know, the 2,000-pound bombs, and then this back and forth, displaced here, displaced here, displaced here. You know, to try to shatter you mentally, to try to shatter you emotionally, psychologically, try to spiritually shatter you all the way down. Those are all signs. Those are all signs of individuals who are heading to hellfire. You know, if God is on your side, one of the meanings, I was looking at the scholarly commentary of this verse, then the blessings is you would be having the morals of Moses. If God is on your side, you would have the morals of Prophet Solomon. You would have the morals of Prophet David. If God is on your side, that's how you would respond with those morals. Openness, instead of saying, you know, let's bomb them to, you know, out of Gaza, you would go before the ICJ and you would present your evidence, and you would gather more evidence. This is how you would respond. You would come with clear signs. You wouldn't come with this mental, emotional, social attempt to shatter, destroy, and ethnically cleanse a people from their tongue. And then use the cries of who knows how many fabrications that you saturated the community with, and then have people to just be busy trying to respond to your fabrications. You would respond with those morals. Did you come before the ICJ with your evidence on the event of October 7th and present it transparently and openly as Moses faced the Pharaoh? Let's just say Hamas is the Pharaoh. Did you, Israel, come before the ICJ, gathered all your evidence, and say, we would like not to be the Lord of the universe and designate Hamas as a terrorist group, but we would like to present evidence on evidence and before an international criminal court of justice, and have others weigh in on it, and also give due process to Hamas to defend themselves, just like you had lawyers defending you when Palestinians or South Africa brought a case against you in the ICJ. Did you respond with these morals? And the truth is, you did not. One looks at your actions, you responded like the Pharaoh. You responded like the Pharaoh. You went behind the scenes, plotting and planning, manufacturing evidence, manufacturing a way to win. And then when you couldn't win, and then you started to, again, like, no one can stop us anyway. And that's exactly what the Pharaoh did. And you just started to bomb away and shatter away and kill away. And it's kind of like, try and stop me. And that's exactly what the Pharaoh said, try and stop me. He just bulldozed through. He just kept bulldozing through. And he became completely, again, at the height of delusion, the height of arrogance. But we all know how the story ends. So when I warn, doesn't mean like I'm going to go and blow up any building, but it's, we know what happens. The warning is to let you know that if you continue down this line, God has power over you. You may not be aware of it. You may really be deluded by the bombs. But at an appointed time, what fell upon the Pharaoh and his soldiers will fall upon you. And as you gush forth into hellfire, you will be asked, did no warner come to you? And there will be people who speak and say, we did come to them, and we did openly, transparently say, and we presented the argument from our books and their books that you are treading a path that's going to lead you to hellfire. Thank you.